three travelers moved through the forest once more. They had cleansed the vampire's lair of all such foul creatures, and returned the lizard woman to her home. Much to Kurt's dismay, Julia also gave the lizard folk the vampire's fortune. But the merchant did get to keep the mimic. A nice prize to be sure. It was currently tied up in the back of the wagon. Julia and Grant didn't trust it, even if it had been docile while loading it up. They rolled along the beaten path, the heavy foliage above shielding them from the sun. Kurt lounged in the back of the cart and soaked up the trip. It was so nice after being in that dreary manor. This forest was a blessing compared to that. He didn't even fear the shadows. The two at the front were another story. They had been on enough adventures to not drop their guard. Even so, they didn't see the creature lurking in the trees. Its hood feet clopped on the wooden branches, a sound that the travelers barely noticed after days of their own horses' steps. Jumping down, the mysterious creature kicked the cart and vanished back into the trees. "What was that?" Kurt blurted out as he sat up, his eyes wide. "No clue," the mercenary responded as he leaned out the side of the wagon to see the source. Raising his hand, the muscular man brought their trip to a halt. He came around the wagon to see their wooden boards were broken. Unsheathing his sword, he looked round. Nothing. Just trees, trees, and more trees. Not his favorite. Not after he lost his crew to a bunch of tree folk. Grant looked about once more, before something struck the wagon on the other side. The cart swayed, and Grant jumped back in fear. A shadow soared over his head, and he followed it back to the tree line. Perched in the branches was a bizarre creature that he had never seen. It had a horse's head on the body of what he thought was an ape or a monkey, except its legs were so long that its knees were above the head as it squatted in the branches. Hello, and welcome back to Mythical Phylogeny, fellow adventurers. I'm your guide, Jason Diogos. Today we turn our attention to the Tikbalang, a strange creature to say the least, one I bet only a few people know about. Let's stay for a bit and see what we can make of it. The Tikbalang is a creature which comes from the Philippines. It's the head of a horse with a humanoid body, but the legs are so long that when it is sitting, its knees are over the head. Such a bizarre looking creature, yes? But is it that strange a creature? Horses exist, yes. They are not native to the Philippines, but the idea of such a creature does hail from Hindu mythology, and have existed for over 4,000 years. The Tikbalang lives in trees and becomes more active and mischievous during a full moon. They are sometimes called a werehorse for this reason. The Tikbalang is a trickster. It can mimic the sounds of other creatures and will lure travelers astray. This would indicate some level of intelligence. While a horse would potentially be smart enough for this, its vocal ones would need to be reworked to be similar to a human or a parrot's. Nothing too complicated here. The real problem comes from their legs. They are long, more designed for jumping or running quickly. This is actually important since the Tikbalang lives in trees, the banyan being the most common according to my research. It has hooves, and most tree climbers have hands and feet, much better suited to grip the wooden surface. But we have hooves here, which are for solid surfaces. The long legs allow it to jump up and move through the branches. No need to climb. They are often said to be able to fly, but really, it is simply good jumping. Now, once it gets standing, can it perch in a tree? There are a few ways to help this. The first is to use the hooves like a goat instead of a horse, which will let it grip the tree branches better. Mountain goats can scale nearly vertical cliffs and keep their balances on ledges. This would be a better option than a horse's hoof. If not a fully formed two-toe hoof, a partial would work. This will be the key to allowing the Tikbalang to thrive in the forest. The Tikbalang is capable of limited shape-shifting and turning invisible. There is an interesting trait here. The only way to protect yourself from the Tikbalang is to turn your shirt inside out. Strange. Why is that? It seems to be completely pointless. Yes? Maybe not. I spoke previously about illusions and how you can generate them using certain compounds. Well, if they disperse a pollen, they may be able to achieve this. Yes, pollen. The trees which the Tikbalang dwell in are not just random trees, but ones of importance. Potentially, these trees are a magical key point. It is the pollen from these trees which serve as the catalyst for the spells which will bind you. Now, why turn your shirt inside out? Well, this will knock the pollen off you and mix your sweat in, which will absorb the magic. Water is a potent mana sink, where else would it be used in potions? There's a final oddity of the Tikbalang. On their backs, there are 3 golden hairs. If you manage to pull it out, supposedly the Tikbalang will surrender and serve you. Why? Some sense of pride? Surely not. Why only 3 golden hairs? Well, I don't think they are hairs, but twigs from the trees. The mark of their home is a territorial display and a heavy dishonor for them to lose. Another way to achieve its service is to grab the Tikbalang's neck and wrangle it to the ground after he keeps jumping. This is similar to breaking a regular horse. Lastly, it seems the Tikbalang are prone to being bored. If the target of their pranks ignores them and just walks away, it will become frustrated and give up and leave. From my research, it seems that it is rare for the to become aggressive, unless their home tree is being threatened. The Tikbalang will use its illusions first and avoid combat. Use techniques for breaking illusions I spoke of in that conversation. Watch for discrepancies in the world. Once through that, the Tikbalang is limited in weapons. It doesn't have claws or jaws which can rip you asunder. This leaves it with kicks. Now those kicks can send you flying, and one to the head will be fatal. You need to avoid it. A large shield will prevent a direct impact, but will still break your arm. Don't try and stop the Tikbalang's momentum. It's too much. Best to just dodge and avoid its attacks. If it does attack, use spears to turn its momentum against it. It will take a second to stop after jumping and reposition its feet. In that moment, you can use a sword or an arrow. You won't get long though. Another option would be to try to lasso it. If you combine the legs, you'll be at the disadvantage. Best option would be to lure it into a tight area where it can't jump. Close walls like a dungeon or a hallway. This would be ideal if in a forest, not good. Trees offer a lot of room to maneuver, and it can come from any direction. You can use area effect attacks to combat its high mobility. Be careful not to set yourself on fire though. You can make a poison cloud slow and hinder the Tikbalang. You could also turn the ground to mud and limit its mobility. Spread a glue through the air, honey or syrup-like substances. This could be useful to distract the Tikbalang, if only for a moment. The real goal will be to trap it. If you only need the 3 golden hairs, you might be able to grab them with a telekinesis spell. You'll need to be quick if you do. If that isn't an option, it is pickpocketing them from the neck. A rogue would likely have the best odds of that. Dodge its jump attack and then grab its neck and the hairs and let go. If not, use a chokehold and brace yourself for each impact. It may take a bit to get the beast to surrender. The Tikbalang is a strange foe. It is more of a trickster than a combatant. This way I can only place them at a 3 out of 10. They can be dangerous, but are more prone to pranking than killing. Okay, first up. Can you tame the Tikbalang? Yes. Why? Well, a spellcaster focusing on illusions and quick fighter? I don't know too many who would discard such a potent option. Supposedly they are loyal unto death. Still, even if for a time, that is worth it. You could have it set up illusions and confuse your foes, or start the fight with a surprise kick. You might have to deal with it pulling pranks on you, such as moving a chair or misplaced goods. Hopefully nothing too extreme. If you don't tame it, then the fur can be used as well as the bones and the meat. The pollen from their home trees can be used to promote powerful illusions, and is often used by alchemists in mana restoring potions and invisibility ones. You'll need to be quick with this, else the pollen will be blown away. If you are skilled at skinning, you can remove the hide and turn it inside out to keep the pollen from escaping. Ironic, huh? Grant steadied himself. His eyes focused on the creature in the trees. He swore it was laughing at him. The mercenary took a step forward, and the creature changed its face. It was his old comrade, Clark, man who fell to a devil. "How's it going?" "No," Grant muttered, as Clark dropped down and took a step forward. His hand extended. "Go away." Guilt plagued the man. He swung his sword madly. The Clark-faced illusion stepped forward. 1 step, 2 steps, and it jumped, throwing backwards as the Tikbalang landed a hard kick to the mercenary's chest. He landed on his back near the rear of the cart, with the horse-faced creature towering over him, laughing. He tried to raise his blade, only to find the creature standing on it. "Get off," he grunted, puffing and puffing. Kurt went to work within the cart. He unstrapped the mimic and shoved it over the back of the wagon. The mimic instantly saw its prey. Long arms stuck out and grabbed the Tikbalang. The horse creature kicked, but it couldn't move the heavy creature, nor break its sticky hold. It neighed and whined as the mimic's mouth opened wide and swallowed the Tikbalang alive. Grant looked up to the merchant, then down at the chest-shaped mimic licking its lips. He had defeated the creature while he had fumbled about. The merchant had bested the monster. "I'm done with this," Grant spat as he kicked himself up. "I don't know why I'm here. Seems you can handle it all yourself." What?" the old man stammered in surprise. He looked on in confusion as the muscular mercenary stormed away from the wagon. "Grant, come back! Grant!" His cries fell on deaf ears as his protector vanished down the road. Well, this is an interesting turn. It seems that the Tikbalang pulled one final trick with its death. While not a powerful foe, the Tikbalang still requires caution. Thanks for watching, fellow adventurers. Please return next week, where fate has brought us together with the Banshee. Until then, safe travels.